Welcome back, Lunicorns. In this video, I want to take you through the 8 steps that anyone can take towards starting their own business. In step 1, it all starts with an idea. We all have the good ones and some of us have bad ones, but the reality is if you want to create a business out of an idea, it needs to have some form of sustainable business somewhere within the idea, right? Ideas come in all shapes and sizes, and ways of getting them, whether you think you have that light bulb idea or not, is to do this simple exercise, which I think is valuable for both cases. Is there a problem that needs a solution in the world today? I'll give you an example. The taxi industry, only 10 years ago, you would call via a landline. There was no availability when you needed one. So Uber came along and digitized that industry. What Uber did was bring an existing technology, an emerging technology, mobile commerce, and apply it to an old industry, ordering a taxi. And there you are today, they have a multi-billion-dollar business. So that's one way of looking at an idea and how to create a sustainable business out of it. Another idea is there anything in your day-to-day life that is a problem for you, that you think you could come up with a better idea for in solving, whether it be using technology or not, hardware or software, whatever the component, an idea should be turned into reality through a sustainable business model. So that's the idea. Step 2. Now, there's one thing, and this is not so much of a step, more a consideration that I think every individual who wants to become an entrepreneur or start a small business of any kind or a large business needs to take into consideration. And that point is consideration, because when you start out, the big difference between people who give up too soon or basically get a bit too bogged down with this grand task of creating an alternative income and a new revenue stream for themselves of a new business is that they put too much pressure on themselves at the beginning. You should be realistic with the amount of time that you can dedicate towards this, because most people do this while they have another job, while they even have 2, 3, 4 jobs. So be realistic with your time. I suggest that you look at your day or your week or your month and dedicate an hour a week, an hour a day, whatever availability you have, but start smaller than the time you think you have, because the worst thing is for this task to then become a chore for you and you actually end up hating it. I mean, that's the nightmare, right? You want this thing to be positive and enjoyable journey, progressing you towards your business outcomes, aims, and desires. Last point on action and consideration is take it in small steps. And one thing you'll learn is the first step towards entrepreneurship and starting your own business is doing this, doing the research, understanding what the idea is there a business available to it? And actually, this is the first test for you. The first test should be your willingness and ability to dedicate a small amount of time every day, every week, every month towards this potential outcome. You don't know if it's going to be positive or negative, but ultimately it's a learning. If anything, it might even just teach you discipline. To know that you can dedicate 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month, 1 hour a year towards a cause outside of your day-to-day life. So that's it, action and consideration as point 2. Step 3 is research. And I know it's one that sounds a bit intimidating, but research is arguably one of the most important areas, because you should know the industry, you should know the market, you should know the numbers. If it's not just for yourself, it's also for anyone who's ever interested in joining your journey, joining this as an investor, as a co-founder, as an employee. You should know the numbers. So at the early phases of the business, do the research. Now, I'm not saying reading long reports with technically worded descriptions of things that you might not know or have a background in. It's simply like Googling things. So one of the most basic forms of research is just finding out, A, if that product exists in the market today. If it does, how are they doing it? There's one point I want to make. Pause this for a second. If it's done, doesn't mean it's done right. So don't get disheartened or think, oh, well, I can't do it now. My idea was great, but someone's done it. See how they've done it. How could you do it differently? Could you apply different technologies? A great example of that is social networking, right? I think it was in 2004, Facebook launched. But in 2002, social networking already existed. Friendster was founded in 2002, and MySpace 2003. Facebook only came late to the game in 2004. And by 2006, MySpace was the largest social network in the world. And back then, when Mark Zuckerberg in 2004 founded Facebook and he looked at the existing solutions that were in the market that day, he thought he could do it better, and he did. And you could too. Another good tip for research is letting tools and softwares do the work for you. I'll give you an example. App Annie or SimilarWeb.com is a resource where you can just drop a website's URL in and find out how many active users they get per week, per month, per year. So you can benchmark what the other competitors in the market are getting in terms of traffic, and unique user engagement. I'm going to send a few resources down below in the comment boxes for you to start having a go at. Feel free to send me any questions if you have, and I'll be happy to send you some more resources. Every country has their own data source. For example, in the UK, the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, has lots of free resources online for you to download data on app downloads, on demographics around the country. So it's a really valuable resource for you to understand how big is your market, how big are your customers, how much money do they have to spend on your type of product. Take a look and feel free to check them out. Send me any questions if you have, and I'll be happy to send you any more resources that I know of. All right, so we've been through 3 steps, which have been idea, action and consideration, and research. Now, one of the most important ones is business. We need to find out what the business case is here. And one way to do that is understand who your customer is, who would be buying this product, service, or whatever you're selling. So before I move on, get ready for your first business lingo buzzword bingo. B2C and B2B. This is when you find out whether your business is selling direct to customers or to other businesses. Guess which one those are? B2C is, yep, you guessed it right. It's business to customer, business to consumer. It's when you sell an item or a service directly to customers, individual people who aren't businesses. And then the other side is B2B. Yep, you guessed it. It's business to business. It's when you sell a service or a product to a business. I'll give you an example. A B2C or a business to customer organization is a brand, a clothing brand is a business to customer organization. Louis Vuitton, they sell items that they create with their own brand to customers. They're business to consumer. A B2B example is a software company that sells a software to other businesses. Microsoft is a B2B company. They're also a little bit B2C, to be honest, because they sell to customers too, but we'll ignore that because the term remains the same. They sell enterprise software to enterprises, to other businesses. They're a B2B business. So once you know which one you are, it should define how your organization should be set up, because pricings differ, long-term value of customers differ. Another important thing to learn when you're going through the business case is, are you in a hot sector or an industry? Because investors, when they're looking at your potential company to invest in, will look at, is your industry a growing industry? Is there about to be a big change, a big growth in that industry? I'm going to link above to a video that I've made, which should give you some more practical how-tos in how to find out the business case, the total addressable market, and what a thing called a CAGR is, another buzzword business bingo that you need to learn when presenting your company to investors. So that's step 4. Step 5. Now, this is when you want to think about co-founders, building a team. If you're a single founder, that's great, but this is a tough game. You don't want to be alone. There's a famous saying that I'm sure you've heard: if you want to go slow, go alone. If you want to go fast, go together. So it's actually quite important that you find someone who you can team up with. And they can be an old friend, an old colleague, someone maybe that you've worked with for a long period of time. What investors or people from the outside who look at your company to invest in or be part of will look at is the relationship between the co-founders. Because ultimately, co-founders should have complementary skill sets. One of the worst examples is when you see a business school graduates, 6 guys starting a company together. I'm sure some of them are very successful, but in a lot of cases, investors would prefer that you would have a technical team member, a legal team member, someone who knows business, someone who's an idealist. And in the best cases, I'd only ever really recommend 2 to 4 co-founders. Because when you start to get more than 4 co-founders and you're splitting equity, the shares in the company equally, you start to get smaller stakes per person, which means that there's more people to fight and less to fight over. So I'd highly recommend that you find at least 1 co-founder. 3 is okay. 4 is really pushing the limits, and more than 5 is actually something that investors won't invest in. Equally, 1 co-founder or 1 founder is also a worry, because if you lose your interest, the idea dies with you. So single co-founders are as bad as 6 co-founders or more. So the sweet spot is 2 to 4 founders on a team. If I'm completely honest, 2 to 3 is the golden nugget, and splitting shares equally. If you're worried about splitting shares and how to split shares, to bringing in founders who've come in later, if you're the person who started the company, there's a link to a video above about splitting co-founder equity, where I share some thoughts and ideas about the best ways to do that. Unfortunately, it's always a difficult conversation for everyone, but I think this will help you find a common ground with your co-founders. Point 6, is formalizing things, right? You found a co-founder, you've done the research, you've got the business case, the idea has been proved. What do you need to do? You need to name it. You need to buy the domains, you need to register the companies, see if there's any licenses you need to acquire to be able to operate in that industry. These are things that you should do at this phase with your co-founder. Formalize things, make a company presentation. Now, the reason we did things in this order is because when you want to make a business plan, which is something that you'll give to investors as a proof that you've done the research, there's a market opportunity, and the team's put in place, you've tested some very early versions of the product. This is a business plan that you use to get investment. But all the steps we've done previously up to this point, now 6, will go into that. So the idea, thrashing out what the vision behind what you're trying to do is, the why you're doing it, the market research. This is the size of the market. This is its growing at rate. We believe that we can capture 1% of the market in the next 10 years, which is worth $1 billion or whatever it might be. You've done your homework, you've done the research, you know your domain, and that's something very important to get going very early on, is to know the domain you're going into. So formalize things, put it into presentations, put it into documentations, make that pitch presentation, make that business plan, use the research you've done to inform that documentation, because you're in a really good place now to go to market. Point 7. Now, this is a point that I urge any founder to try and do if they can. Obviously, it depends on the business case that you're trying to take to market, but this is testing. You've done all the research, you know the audience. If you're lucky enough that you're developing a product that's maybe just an online e-commerce, an e-shop channel of some kind, you can test this. Is there an actual need? Will customers pay for your product? You can do this very basically by doing a survey, a questionnaire of some kind. I'll put a link below to some examples like Google Forms or Typeform. There are free online services you can use to do user testing and actually to see if there's a need and a requirement or a desire for the product you want to sell. Unfortunately, if you're dealing in the hardware industry, that might be a little bit more difficult for you to test because you might have to make a prototype, which might cost time and money. If you have that, great, do it. But if you don't, then try to do some other kinds of testing. In this phase, the dream case is to build an MVP. Ready for another buzzword bingo? A minimum viable product. What this means is a product that's basic enough you can test in front of a small group of people. Whether they're friends and family initially, they'll always tell you what you want to hear though, so be careful about that. We're using friends and family too much. But also, they're also quite good because if you test them at every phase, they will see the growth and progression. Ideally, you'll find a small group of anonymous individuals who'd be willing to test your product in the early phases. So I highly recommend doing an MVP, a minimum viable product, something basic that you can push out to a small group of customers. We call them pilot customers. Typically, this is for free. In a dream scenario, these can be paid pilot customers, but stick with free for now because you're not probably providing as much value as you think you are in the early days. But this is where you learn. So test this because this MVP phase, this testing phase, is so important because the next phase, phase 8, is all about raising money. And investors love more than anything to see traction. And the most golden nugget of traction is desire and need from customers. And step 7 is so important for the next phase. Step 8, getting investors. Now, investors love more than anything to see traction. They like to see how your customers respond to your early products. That's why phase 7 is very important for phase 8, because you can say, hey, investor, look, we tested with all these customers. They love it. Save those emails when people say they love it. Also save them when they hate it because you should use that to improve things, but don't show the investors that. Investors want to see customer quotes. They want to see recommendations that you would recommend it to your neighbor. You would recommend it to a family member. And actually what you want to see progress and grow, because one tactic I've seen being used in the past to win over an investor is to say, hey, we got this comment from a customer. This customer said they love this, but they would want to see this. So we need to raise that money to build this for this customer because we know that there are 150,000 others like them out there today. And we can get them if we do this one small change. It'll cost $500,000. That's what we're here for today. That shows that you're smart enough to know your weaknesses, but you're also smart enough to know how to improve on them. So that's a great one for investment, using the traction and the research that you've gained today. Another area about investing, now I've made a video about this, I'll put the link above, to how to actually face investors, what type of investors, angels and others. But the short answer for now is there are different types of investors and there are different types of businesses which require different types of investments. So in this link above, I talk about equity crowdfunding, angel investors, venture capital. But for now, what I'll say is this. If you can self-fund an organization for a period of time, it's a good thing because it shows you have skin in the game. The buzzword for that is called Bootstrapping, yes, that's correct. That's when you use a form of your own income, a small percentage. Say you earn $50,000 a year, and every single month you take 10% of your paycheck and you put that into funding this idea, growing it and developing it. This shows to any investor later on down the line, or even a co-founder that you want to bring in, that you're really committed to this. You are actually putting your own money and your own time, and actually there's an opportunity to cost to this. You could be spending that time and money on other things, but you're dedicated to this. It's a good omen. That's a good sign. And that's one form of self-funding. Another way is soft funding. This is where governments provide you with grants. If you live in Norway, for example, Innovation Norway is a great example. They give lots of money to early stage companies if you tick a few boxes. Most countries and most cities have these, some more than others, of course. Another aspect is, of course, FFF. What does that stand for? Drumroll, please, another buzzword bingo. Family, friends, and fools. It's a derogative term typically meant and referred to the early people who give you money out of their own pocket. They're typically not sophisticated investors. They're your auntie, your uncle, your mom, your grandfather, your sister, but hopefully not too many people, because that's why the fools comes in. Usually they give you the money out of love and they want to see you succeed. Try not to take too much money from too many people. Try not to take too much money from one person as well. Be smart about this. Don't lose friends over this. Make sure they all know the risks involved. So that's it from my 8 steps towards starting your own business. I hope it was of some value to you. I know it was quite high level, but if there's anything missing, please leave a comment down below and I would be more than happy to make a longer form video about it for you. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see weekly business insight from the Lunicorn. I'll see you in the next video.